we're going to focus now on some producer things. We talked about cameras in a different video, and I had a list of things that we talked about there. And now I have some more items to talk about. So let's talk some more about this. So the things we're doing in the producer role, we're not so much focused on cameras and coming up with good shots, though as the cameras and producer, you're doing those things. But this half of the role, let's talk about this. Okay, so we're going to talk about the switcher some more, and the lights show up kind of crazy on the video as we're making it, which is kind of cool. And then we're also working on this computer a lot. Now there's a few pieces of software that we're using here, and we need to get familiar with all of them and some of the pieces to get started with it. Okay, so let's talk about this first. So this right here, this piece of software is called OBS, and I don't know if you've heard of it before or not, but that's what it's called. Okay, and so what OBS does is it takes these sources, so we see sources here in this column, and then it sends them out to the stream. That's how we create our stream. So the sources that come in, let's talk about a few of those. This probably makes the most sense to talk about it this way. So this one here, which has a little camera next to it, is labeled BMD ATEM. Okay, and that's actually what this little switcher device is called. It's called a Blackmagic design, BMD, and it's called an ATEM. Okay, so that's what this switcher is. So everything that comes out of this comes into OBS over here and is labeled as BMD ATEM. Now if I were to click this little eyeball icon right here, that would mute it, as you might think from an audio world, or it makes it not visible. So I click that and now we can't see anything that's coming from over there. Okay, and then if I come over here and if I were to push this button, if I were to push 2, right, and so we can see under monitor 2 is this tight shot that's currently pointed at the stool and stuff. So if I come over here, now I'm pushing the 2 button, and I can see that it changes in OBS. It picks that one. So whatever the Blackmagic design ATEM video switcher is sending out, that's what shows up under this BMD ATEM. Okay, and so that's obviously a big part of what all the cameras come into that. So the 4 different cameras. Also, I didn't talk about this button earlier. There's 2 other buttons that are, well, there's a few other buttons that are maybe interesting here to talk about. So 1, 2, 3, 4 seem pretty self-explanatory. Those are the 4 shots across. So camera 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Those are those choices there. And whichever one you push is the one that's actually showing. The way we have it set up now, the shot shows up on both the left and the right side. With some of the buttons you push here, that might actually not be the way it always shows up. The one on the right is the top right is the one that's definitely going out. So that might be something to keep in mind as we push some other buttons here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But the other one we use a lot would be the still button. So if you push the still button, we have a still image loaded into the switcher so that when you push that button, that's what's displayed. This is how we start our streams. We should be on still. And not one of the cameras, right? When we start streaming, we don't want it to be pointed at an empty stage or a stage with people talking or goofing off or whatever. So we start on still, and that's how we start our stream, okay? And when you turn this thing on, when we first start up, that's what it shows up on anyway. You do have, there's another button here, which is black, which will go to a black screen. I can't really think of any scenarios where we would do that. Instead, if you need to cover the screen with something, I'd cover it with still. I wouldn't cover it with black. So that's that. This is set right now to, it's hard to read this button when it's lit up, but it says cut. And so that what that means is that as I switch between 2 and 3, or still even in this case, that means it's doing a hard cut. This is what I like, and this is what I want to use in general. You will see other people. Sometimes you could push this auto button, and what that does then is now as you push buttons, it'll do this fade. So you see on the right-hand monitor how it kind of does this fade. For what we do, I don't really like that, so I like cut. Yeah. And then this, finally, the last big button that's over here that you could use for something, I guess. Maybe at the end of a stream, if you wanted to use it, you could use fade to black. So like say if you were on still, so that we finish the stream out, and then you just want to put this really nice finishing touch on it, you could push the FTB button, which is fade to black. And so as I push that, it's going to fade down to black slowly like that. And then you could end the stream after that. That's a really nice finishing touch. And you see as the fade to black is on, it blinks. So if I push the button again, it will unfade to black. So there you go. So that might be something to think about, something to do, but in general, that's not something we do, but it would be a nice finishing touch at the end of a stream, for sure. Okay, so we talked about the switcher with 1, 2, 3, 4 still. We talked about how it probably should be on cut. That's my preference anyway. And maybe the fade to black, finishing touch. So we're kind of all over the place here, but I'm trying to get through this. So that's Blackmagic design. So that's how that stuff gets in there, okay? So that's part of the stream that we have going on here. I'm going to touch on some other ones that are real easy here first. So the next one, one of the other ones above that is this Watermark. And if you look in the bottom right corner of the screen output, you see that's what puts that thing there. So we leave that on all the time. If for some reason it's missing, or if you're just wondering, well, what's Watermark? That's what it is. Okay, so it's just a layer that shows that logo in the bottom right corner all the time. Okay, Dante audio is how we get audio for the stream. So right now there's nothing happening. This bottom screen right here would also show audio activity if there was something going on. I'm getting notifications. Get off my screen. Okay, well, notification messed up my video. So anyways, here we are again. So we'll just piece those together perhaps. I was talking about audio. So Dante audio, that's how we get audio signals. So that comes from, right, so first all the sound comes off the stage, it goes into the mixing board over there, and then we mix it and we send it out to speakers, but that's for in here. But what we also do is we take a copy of that audio and we send it out to the studio, right? And so usually Mr. Marty's the one who works on that, but also John is starting to work on that too. And then that audio comes back from them. After they mix it together, it comes back, and then it comes into this computer, and then we sync that up with the video, and all that here is where that happens. So that's where we get our main audio. If you were to mute that by clicking the eyeball icon, then there would be no more sound, and that would be bad. So, but if there's a problem, that's how audio gets in. So Dante audio, video comes in through BMD ATEM. We'll talk about Propresenter in a second, and Watermark is the little icon down in the bottom corner. All right. And then this YouTube sub reel, we do run this sometimes, and so this is more part of the producer role. So there's a spot in the service where we will run this, and so right now it's muted. You see the eyeball is kind of crossed out and grayed out. If we click it, it'll show this little animation of this clicking like and subscribe, right, for YouTube, and then it goes away. And you can, after that, you can click the eyeball again to hide it if you want. There's nothing showing, but and then you could, if you wanted to run it again for some reason, you could run it twice. We usually run it once, and that's when the live stream worship leader is talking, which is a whole nother subject we'll get into, which I did not write down on my sheet. So let's write that down. Live stream worship leader. All right, we're going to get to that because I don't want to get into that just yet. Okay, so we talked about, well, what have we talked about? We talked about the video in, talked about audio in. Okay, Propresenter. Yeah, let's talk about that one. That's one of the last. It's the last source that I haven't talked about yet. So Propresenter in is actually how we get the lyrics right here. Okay, so the lyrics are showing up right now, and that's because that's what's on the screen right now. We have some lyrics that are running right there. If we're sending scripture, scripture will show up there, and you're familiar with all that, having worked lyrics position. So, but there are some times where, say, we send a, sometimes we send like a full screen photo, and maybe we leave it up on the screen for a long time because it makes sense to leave the photo up on the screen a long time, but it doesn't make sense to leave it up on the stream the whole time because it's covering up matte or something like that, because the Propresenter will cover the whatever's coming from the Blackmagic design. So say I had this shot selected here and Matt was standing there, right? And then I put a full screen photo in front of it, right? So now we can't see Matt. We can just see like the sides of the screen or something like that. And so we don't want to do that the whole time because that doesn't make sense. So sometimes it might make sense to mute this. And when we do that, in this case, you'll see that it takes the lyrics in and out because the lyrics is what's sending right now. Okay, so that's something you could do. However, there's another solution to that possible problem too, and that has to do with scenes. And so now we've finished all these sources over here, and we've got these 3 scenes over here, and that's all the scenes that we need, all the scenes that this computer can handle, really. So right now we're on normal scene, which looks like this. It has the Blackmagic design in the background. It has Propresenter kind of in front of that, and all the things that you see here in the sources. If I click one of these different scenes though, and you're not really gonna be able to see it right now, but this one's called PIP for picture in picture camera main. So when we click this, it's gonna look pretty similar. Actually, you can kind of see it now. Now the lyrics are hiding down here, very small. And I think if we click, yeah, you see this blue box outlines. So this is where the Propresenter output would show up. So if we were sending a big picture from Propresenter, but we didn't want it to cover the whole screen, we could click the PIP camera main, and then it would show the picture just in the bottom left corner, and then we can still see Pastor Matt or whatever else is coming from the Blackmagic design ATEM easily. And then we also have the opposite of that shot, which is to show the projector as the main. So if we really wanted to see the image, maybe we didn't care what, you know, Pastor Matt was doing, or just whatever. Maybe it wasn't that important for that point in time. So we could show the picture real big. In this case, it's just lyrics, but it could be a full screen picture. And then we could do that. And then so just move around those, just click back around. So now we're back to normal scene, which is where we normally will be. But in some cases, it might make sense to use these other scenes. Again, it might make sense to also just mute Propresenter. However, if you do mute Propresenter, you need to be sure, because there's something going on the screen that you don't actually want on the stream, you need to be sure to unmute it so that the lyrics show up for like the final song, for example. That happens sometimes during the sermon. We mute Propresenter and then we forget to turn it back on for the last song, so there's no lyrics in the stream for the last song. So that's something to look out for and something to avoid. Okay, so we have talked about video in, audio in, Propresenter in. We talked about the YouTube reel. We talked about the audio level a little bit. We talked about where it would show up. So it'll show up here as kind of a graph over time. And you see, like, so there's time back here. So this started 35 minutes ago, and there's not been any sound at any point. There's not really for you. An important thing to keep in mind, though, is that this screen, so whoever is mixing the live stream audio in the studio, you know, through those doors, whoever is doing that, they actually see this same screen. They have a copy of your screen, and they are looking at this monitor. The problem is the monitor can only show up here next to OBS, and so they need to see this monitor here to make sure they're doing a good job. But it can give you an indication as to whether or not, like, you're actually getting audio. And then if something's going wrong and the audio people, I don't know, are asleep at the wheel or something, and you see that it should be around -14 is where it should be most of the time. If you say that, like, for some reason it's like -36 the whole time, like something's wrong, or if you see it's like at 0 the whole time, you know, that maybe we need to go help them out and see what's going on. -14 is where it should be about most of the time. Okay, so that's the audio level. What else did I have here? Okay, so we got chat and starting stream. Let's talk about choosing shots for a second. So choosing shots. So right now we have 2 shots right here right now. And this is, again, more producer kind of stuff. And camera 1 would be the reverse shot. So that's down by the drums, looking out past the drums, out towards the congregation, towards these windows over here. That's that shot that would normally be there but isn't set up right now. And then you'd have studio would be on 4, right? So it's labeled studio on the screen here, but it is, in fact, number 4. So we don't want to, so choosing shots. We don't want to go to the studio when it's not time to go to the studio. That seems obvious. But so then we were left with 3 other shots here, these other 3 to choose from. So let's say that I don't have a lot of hard and fast rules to keep in mind here, but one thing I would say is that, so camera 3 is this wide shot. We would call that like an establishing shot. It's also like a cover shot. So if I'm looking at camera, if I'm using camera 2 and say I'm here, okay, and now I'm looking at whatever I'm looking at right now, but I want to change it. Well, what I don't want in the stream, so this is maybe a good example. I don't want, and so, yeah, so I can move it around. So I'm over here looking at this thing, okay? I'm looking at this table, okay? That's what my shot's on. Well, but now I want to go look at Tyler. What I don't want to do is this. Okay, there's Tyler. I don't want to do that. Okay, no, I want to go back to the table. I'm going to go back to the table. Okay, there's the table. I don't want to do that. So what I can do is I can cover my shot. So I'm on this table right now, okay? Now I'm going to push 3. So I've covered it, and now I'm going to move this camera, and I'm going to point at the thing I want to point at, right? So I'm pointing at the drums, okay? I come back down here. I said, yeah, I like that shot on camera 2. I like where I've got it now. Now I'm going to push 2, and I'm going to go to it, okay? So I can use, so shot number 3 being a wide shot that's kind of always in a fixed location is not meant to be, this is how I want to watch my stream. Like, this is not a very enticing or entertaining shot. It's just a wide shot that kind of shows what's going on. The details are really small because it's far away. And I don't want to watch this most of the time, but I can cover my camera 2 shot or my camera 1 shot by kind of going between that. If we're like finishing up a song, okay, a song's finishing and we're not sure where the action's going, go to camera 3, because camera 3 is going to capture the action. If it's happening on stage, it's going to be on there. And then once I figure out where the action is, I can point camera 2 at it, and then I can go to camera 2 and I can focus in on the action there. So camera 3 kind of is this establishing shot, this wide shot. It's not a shot I want to look at very often. So if you find yourself sitting on camera 3 for a long amount of time, we could probably do better, is what I would say. And then the other thing, the only other hard and fast rule is that I don't want to change the shots too often. So I don't want to stay on one shot too long, but I don't want to change them too often either. Like, I don't want to do this, because I'm going to get tired of watching this if I I'm just always bouncing back and forth all the time. Okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, so there's a happy medium somewhere, and it'll take some time to maybe find it, but just keep those thoughts in mind. Hopefully that makes sense, and we can talk more about it later. Okay, choosing shots. We're going to go back to starting stream here in a second, and what you can tie in the chat. We talked about scenes. Titles is going to cover with starting stream. Okay, and then we'll finally talk about live stream worship leader. We're getting there, I promise. Okay, so starting the stream. Okay, it's really easy actually. All right, first we got to talk a little bit about how we stream. So this software is called OBS here. There's a button over here that says start stream. The way it's configured right now is that we'll send a stream from OBS, whatever is showing up in this window, we're going to send, and we're going to send it to Restream. Restream is the service that we use, and this web browser happens to show us what's going on with our Restream account right now. Okay, so Restream is a service that we use, so we send from OBS to Restream. Okay, now from Restream we send some other places. So these are all toggled off right now. You see those three little sliders are toggled off. And where we stream to is we stream to the Christ the King Church Facebook page. We stream to the Christ the King Church YouTube page. And then we stream to this dummy channel that happens to be on YouTube. So it is a public channel, but nobody knows about it. And we use it sometimes for checks. So if we want to stream somewhere, but we don't want to stream to the ones that people know about, right, like the YouTube or the Facebook ones, we can just stream to that one. So if these sliders are all set to off and I push start streaming, over here on OBS, all that's going to happen is the stream is going to come from OBS and it's going to go to Restream. You'll be able to monitor it here in this space. You'll see that it'll show up here. And you'll see some information show up that says, hey, you're streaming here. But it's just going to Restream. I have to click these sliders over to then send it from Restream to wherever I want to send it, like Facebook or YouTube. So what we can do right now is we can, because these sliders are all set to off, and I'm sure they're set to off. I don't want to screw that up and send notifications to everybody who gets them. So I come over here and I click start streaming. Okay, it'll say connecting over there. You'll see some information show up here, right? We can see like what our data transfer rate is and how much CPU, blah 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 blah, how long we've been streaming. Okay, and then now you see over here that it's showing up and it has a monitor time. It says we're live. It says we're this is how long it's been going on. It tells us some information about the stream, and sure enough, it shows us what was sending over here. Now there is a delay, right? So if I back up a little bit and I'm going to change the camera too, OBS is going to update immediately, and then you're going to have to wait a second to see it happen in Restream. And that's because it takes some time to get to Restream. But there, you see it, that finally snapped there. Okay, so if you're don't be alarmed that this one's a little bit behind. That's okay. In fact, sometimes we even come over here and you can use the mouse and you can pause this preview. In our setup, we don't really need to see the preview because we've got a preview right here that happens to be in real time. So a lot of times, when people are doing producing, they'll just pause that there. I'm going to leave it running for now, but whatever. So then if I want to send it to one of these places, I would use the little toggle slider and send it over, or I'd use the toggle all on. And so that's typically what we would do on a Sunday morning, as we would toggle it on. But I'm going to toggle one of them on right now after we do one other thing. Okay, and so that's starting the stream. Okay, and to finish starting the stream, I would click the sliders or toggle them all on, and then it would send that there. And yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So on this dummy channel that we use, which is called Better Together Worship 2, we're going to click the slider. Okay, and sometimes you have to click twice to give the browser focus, and then click on it. It'll slide over. It's going to stay offline for a second, and then it's going to send in data, and it's going to get to a point where you know that it's actually working. So right now it's not working yet, but it's getting there. So it should say like connected or something like that, or online, or in a minute. Okay, yeah, so it says streaming, and then it tells you how many people are watching on that channel, and sure enough, it's 0 people because nobody knows about it, so why would they be watching it? Okay, all right. One of the next things I want to talk about here is this update titles, and this is an important one. So the titles is what we're going to call it. Like when we send it to YouTube or to Facebook or wherever, what do we call this? Now, I usually update these titles to start with, so unlike a Sunday morning. So these are still set from yesterday. Today's Monday, and these are usually set. They're set from yesterday. So next Sunday when I come in, when you're producing, I'm going to set this to 39, and it's going to say 9:30 a.m. because that's the first one that we do. And then I'll come in here and I'll update this to 39, and I'll update the song titles and what your mom, Pastor Heidi, will be preaching about, and then the links and stuff stay the same in there. Okay, and then I'm going to click the update all button. As a producer, though, one of the things that I'll want you to do is between the two services, you'll need to come in here. So, you know, we've streamed the first service. Okay, that's great. And we'll talk about how to stop the stream here in a second. But then you'll need to click the Update Titles button. You'll need to change this from 9:30 a.m., which is going to be here, to 11 a.m., and then push the Update All button. And when you do that, it will update the title information for all three of those. And then when we stream the second service, it will have the 11 a.m. tag instead of the 9:30 a.m. tag. Okay, so that's that. All right, so how do we stop the stream? So we talked about maybe doing something like this. This would be a good habit to get into, right? So we do, well, we'll have to talk about live stream worship leaders in a second, but let's just talk about how to end the stream simply. So say we were over here, okay, and maybe we're on, we're on whatever. For some reason, we finished a shot on Tyler's drums. Okay, cool. And then we could do the still, right? So we go to still to kind of end things out, and maybe we get fancy and we push fade to black. Woo, fade to black, and so it fades away over there, and it fades away over here, and you're going to see it happen in real time over here, right? So you'll see it fade to black over there. Okay, and then you can do toggle all off, and that's the way that I would suggest doing it. So you would turn these off here, and then you would stop streaming over here. Now you could just come over here and you can just push stop streaming, like that works too, right? So it says stopping stream, and then, you know, Restream says, hey, you know, you're not sending me anything anymore, so I'm going to stop streaming. So that is, oops, let's get that right. So you can do it either way. That's just how I would do it. I would stop there and then stop there just to get, but you can do it either way. So that's stopping the stream. And then if you did fade to black, you need to remember to turn it off before you start the next service, because otherwise you'll wonder why the screen is gray or black. The good news is that it will blink at you, letting you know that it's on. So something to keep in mind. Okay.